Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, just over here being silly and making myself laugh. I don't know if I'm giving anybody else a smiley face, but maybe. If not, you can laugh at me for trying to make myself laugh. So anyway, okay. So anyway, today we're talking about the book Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. Here, oops, sort of for a second. And we're in chapter 5 on page, flip ahead here, page 192 at the the part titled The 3-Column Chart, Exploring Your Triple Vision. So, but before we get going with that, I'm going to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it with the reading.
Lori Evans in Denver.
Dan Sissick in Las Vegas.
You're muted, Kenji.
Benji, go remain.
Morning, it's Catherine Clement, starting at the 3-column chart, exploring your triple vision. With the 3-column model, you can begin to perceive and function simultaneously within the physical, internal, and symbolic dimensions. You can develop this triple vision by using the 3-column model. In essence, triple vision is the ability to remain centered in any situation, whether it be joyous, disturbing, or neutral. It will give you poise and perspective. When you can translate any physical experience into archetypal coordinates, you are able to understand your emotional responses to that situation. For instance, I once became involved in a heated exchange at a workshop with a woman named May because she felt that I was not honoring her wounded childhood. Immediately, I recognized that, from an archetypal perspective, I was speaking with a child, although May was at least 40 years old. Based on that archetypal impression, I modified both my tone of voice and my vocabulary. I knew that reasoning with May would not accomplish anything because children cannot be reasoned with when they are angry and in need of emotional support. I remained present and sympathetic while she cried about the abuse she had experienced. Once she had vented those painful feelings, however, she relaxed and we were able to proceed in a more adult fashion, looking for something positive that could be salvaged from her memories. Often, when I interact with someone in the audience for more than a few minutes, other people become restless and irritated, even though I use all interactions with individuals in a way that serves the entire group. The anger that sweeps through the audience in those moments is rooted in childlike feelings of neglect. I'm not attending to them, and so they become resentful. Several times I have asked my audience if the reason they get irritated when I'm speaking to one person is that they feel mommy likes her better. And even as they laugh at this question, they inevitably acknowledge that it is exactly how they were feeling. The 3-column model gives you a way to consolidate your many perceptions into a high-power prism that reveals the symbolic interconnection of your experiences. This is actually the intent of a spiritual practice, to see through the seeming disorder of everyday life, past your illusions, and into the underlying divine order. The lens of the 3 windows helps you ignite spiritual alchemy, the process through which we convert physical perceptions from their latent manifestation into their highest expression, the spiritual or golden level. Take a look at the center column in Figure 3, which represents your inner self, your inner laboratory. Here you take the raw experience of a relationship or job and melt it down. You add the catalyst of choice, the desire to raise the experience to a higher level and see its underlying purpose as part of your contract. This molten combination of perception and will determines how you direct this informed energy alloy into a final physical conscientious action or symbolic insight, spiritual gold. Figure 3, the 3-column chart. And then it's got 3 columns. I don't know that I really understand. I guess the first column is talking about things that affect chakras 1 through 3. The second column is chakras 4 through 7, and the third is chakra 8. So It wouldn't do me any good to really read those, I don't
Maybe I
think.
can, maybe I'll see if I could take a screenshot or take a picture of it with my phone and bring it up on screen share when we start discussing if we feel like we want to do that.
All right. This chart is just a small sampling of how things appear different depending on your level of perception. The first column lists how the world is ordered according to your first three chakras. The second column presents the fluid perception of chakras 4 through 7. And the third column represents the realm of symbols, imagery, and your spiritual nature. What looks to be an ordinary relationship in your physical world might well be highly significant when seen from an archetypal perspective. We are all under divine observation. Our motivations are under the looking glass, even more than our choices or actions themselves. With the three dimensions of perception, you can consciously work with your choices as a spiritual art form, aiming to transform them into gold. The consequences of your actions will exceed this lifetime. To start working with your own perceptions in order to turn them into gold, draw a 3-column model like the one on this page in your journal and list all 8 chakras. Then proceed to the following exercise. Walking through the columns. Working with your chakras can help you work with your archetypes. So if you want to bring awareness to your chakras using the 3-column model, here's an exercise that can help you. If you want to skip ahead to work more directly with your archetypes, however, you can proceed to the next chapter. Let's see. In this exercise, you'll focus on one of the 4 survival archetypes because its role in your life is more than likely obvious. Everyone can identify a situation or event that is linked to the child, victim, saboteur, or prostitute. You may choose the saboteur, for example, because you feel that you have blown an opportunity to follow a dream. Perhaps you decided without even giving the dream a chance that the financial risk was too great. Your intention in doing this exercise is to understand yourself and the motivations behind the choices you make. You are looking for insights about what has disempowered you in the past, as well as what has empowered you. You are going to identify your weaknesses along with your strengths, talents, and spiritual qualities. It is as important for you to know where you need to do more inner work as it is to know where you have made spiritual progress. Choose one situation or event in which you can see an obvious connection to one of your 4 survival archetypes: child, victim, prostitute, or saboteur. Then choose a person who played a central role in the situation you chose to examine, someone with whom you can imagine having a contract. If you chose a situation related to the prostitute, for example, then the person might be someone who suggested a business activity that could compromise your ethics or your partner in an unhappy relationship in which you remain for reasons other than love. In examining your own situation or relationship in the light of the archetype you chose, look for ways to use the archetype's positive energies to gain insight into the problem. Beginning with the first chakra, list the information or answer the questions as instructed for each chakra. Remember that you are evaluating the patterns of only the one archetype and situation that you chose for this exercise. You can refer to the earlier section in this chapter called the chakra system for more information about each chakra. Reviewing the first chakra, look for ways in which the archetype you've chosen relates to the situation you are exploring through issues of family loyalty, tribal or group identity, superstitions that control you, social values, and attitudes based on class and ethnicity. For example, your family might project onto you their expectations of what occupation you should pursue based on traditional jobs within their own ethnic group or traditions. Tribal values may also dictate who your family feels is an appropriate life partner for you. Why do I have unfinished business with this situation? List all the reasons that come to you. What positive first chakra strengths served me or continue to serve me as I deal with this memory? List everything that comes to you. For example, the power of your first chakra is groundedness, and its related strengths include physical stability and loyalty. Their shadow side would be exclusion, vengeance, dependency, pity for being victimized, and disloyalty. What family-related issues can I connect to this archetype? Do interactions with my family tend to reduce me to, for example, a dependent child or a victim? Review
Let's
the
let-
second shot.
Let's stop there, Catherine. This section is really long.
Okay.
I'm gonna go through some of what we've read already. Kind of thinking. I'm gonna make sure I make a note where we are though. Let's see if I can do a screen share and share this image. Ooh, come on, thing. Okay. Welcome, Jane and Jason. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see all of you. And hello from Key West, Florida.
Key West.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I got away at just the right time. And I thought my flight back on Monday would be canceled, so I rescheduled it free for Wednesday. So I'm not
Well,
going
that's good.
Yeah, so I have 2
You
more
have
days.
somebody watching, keep an eye out for your.
My
Oh,
neighbors
oh.
are also good. Yeah, I've been in touch with them. They're keeping an eye out. Someone has a key. Yeah.
Right. Good,
And they're
good.
going to shovel for me. So I'm really pleased.
Well,
Yeah.
that's nice.
I know. I didn't ask. Someone volunteered. So
Oh, that's so sweet when the neighbors will do that.
yeah, I
A
really
young man neighbor that is handling it, or kids in the neighborhood? Or is
actually
it your
it's
adult neighbor?
a gentleman who's just a dear soul, who is probably, I think Dave is maybe in his early 50s. Yeah,
Mhm.
but he's very fit. And then I said, "Oh, that's too much for you, Dave," on the chat. And I volunteer. I said, ask one of the other neighbors too, or a neighbor's husband, and so
Yeah.
they all kind of chimed in. Yeah, you can have so and so, and yeah, we'll make it work.
All right.
So it's good.
Cool.
Yeah,
Good, good. What, how much are you guys supposed to get up there snow wise?
a ton, right?
We've been estimated to be somewhere between 3 and 15 inches, so it could go any which way.
Yeah.
We're not getting hit by the freezing rain, so that's good, or supposedly, unless it swings north on us, but yeah.
We are supposed to get some of that in Baltimore. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Both at the same time, I think.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Are you getting snow out there, Lori? Finally? Yet?
No, it's supposed to be snowing right now in this clear sky.
Huh. Well, where's it? It's supposed to start coming in here around noonish or so, but yeah.
I'm glad
Jason,
I
you getting
tuned-
snow down there? Did you guys just get like a frost? I mean, I know it may not have been you, but I feel like somebody was sharing something about snow in Florida recently, and I was
Oh,
like,
there was in the Panhandle. There was a little,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's not unusual. So
right.
earlier in the week, I think it was, and maybe they'll get more. I don't know, but I had heard that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm
Or not-
glad I
I think it's the
tuned into
Panhandle.
this weather channel.
Mhm.
Yeah, for us here in Nevada, it's we're getting a little cool down here where it's supposed to be like 59 or 60 today. But I know they're saying up in northern Nevada that this has been the warmest winter start that they've had. But yet
Mm.
down here, we've had like a couple, 3 times where we've had some rain come through, but it hasn't been a thunderstorm. It's just been a rain, like, on and off during the day. But in the mountains, we've had a lot of rain dropping. Up on the mountains, they've gotten snow, and we've had snow pretty much since I think October up there. Would start to melt off, and then we get another storm come through, and it would drop a bunch more. So, but up there they've gotten snow, but the northern part they're still saying it's. I mean, I think they have gotten some, but they're saying it's the warmest start they've had on record for a lot of years. So it's it seems like it's more the mid and out that way. Although it is a little cooler here, because we were in the 70s last week, and now we're back down to the high 50s and low 60s.
All right.
I'm so glad I tuned into this weather channel.
I know, sorry, Lori. I wasn't
We're,
really wanting to take us off topic. I just all of a sudden I was there thinking about it.
we're
Okay.
saboteuring our discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Good one, Dan.
Let's see here. Get back into the thought process of what I was thinking.
You're
So at the beginning, I feel like she was talking about something, a person. Who was the story she told about? Oh, she was talking about when she was giving a talk and then everybody was getting disgruntled because she was talking to one person. And, I kind of like this idea of where she's explaining how to like take whatever feeling that is coming up in you and then kind of dig into it by using these different little things in the, she kind of like sorts it out. Hold on, let me get this image. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. And I can do a screen share on that for a second. Oh, there you go. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Walking through the columns. So oh, okay. So she was saying identify a situation that seems to be linked in one of the archetypes, and then kind of expressing how to go through which one of these it is that is kind of bringing light to. Does that
So
make
like,
sense?
yeah, like the wounded
Oh,
child
okay.
would probably be basic survival or, um, something like that. Because I know from mine, that it wasn't like survival in the sense of like we were, I think, really in danger like that, but it was just you know, the abrupt changes and differences in my parents to where we would feel like we would need to run down in secret and get on the phone and call our grandparents and ask them to come get us for the weekend or whatever till they kind of, you know, and that was like a survival mode for us, once they started and we were both very attuned to it. And I
Were your
think,
parents were your parents acting erratically, Dan? Is that what you're saying? You were
no, my mom would lock herself in her bedroom for days on end and then come out to fill up her iced tea glass and stuff. My dad was there and around, but then when my mom would kind of flare up, because she would then kind of around the full moon, she would also get these swings and come out and just get mad and do things and throw things and say things and but there were a few times I've talked about in the past incident that happened with me and my stepdad and I got thrown across the room. So in that there was things we were very attuned to that we saw, and we were once we started seeing the little inklings of what those were about, we would try and not be around or make
Yeah,
our
that was your survival mode. You
yeah.
needed stability, so you
Mm.
called your grandparents and they would come pick you up. Okay.
Right. That and so, but that I think that's for me, but for other people, it might have been something different, or depending on the type of archetype. I'm trying to. I wonder if I can enlarge this. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah,
Can you see?
rational group mind. Yeah, I enlarged my to a whole screen.
There you go.
Social
Yeah, it
chaos.
says to okay, you're looking for insights that about what has disempowered you in the past as well as what has empowered you. You are going to identify your weaknesses along with your strengths, talents, and spiritual qualities. Okay. it is as important for you to know where you need to do more inner work as it is to know where you have made progress. So then it says to choose one situation or event in which you can see an obvious connection to one of the four survival archetypes: child, victim, prostitute, or saboteur. And then choose a person who played a central role in the situation that you want to examine, someone with whom you can imagine having a contract. So if we imagine a situation in which something comes up for us, so like for instance, she's talking about when she's in the event and she's talking to one person and she gets this wave of upset from the rest of the people, as all the other people are experiencing, or not all, but a number of people are experiencing that, what did she say, the neglected child feeling. So if we kind of relate to a situation in which some feeling comes up in us of upset, is then we can kind of identify what archetype role is being presented to us and how we can kind of face that to improve upon our inner growth, I guess. Is that what you guys are getting out of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, whatever.
We can kind of think of a situation. Maybe I can just do, oh wait, no, this is my screen share, so. Interesting. Are you seeing my cursor on the screen? Am I sharing my whole screen? Or am I just sharing?
I'm seeing your cursor.
You are seeing my cursor?
Not.
No.
Yeah,
Not, okay, so I'm not sharing the same.
no, we see your full screen with your screenshot on it.
Okay, with just that.
Window. It's
Okay.
just that window though.
Okay. All right, gotcha. How do I fix that to show? I guess it doesn't matter. If you guys can see each other and you can see my screen.
If
Yeah,
you
I
have it
just
in
see,
the-
I
I can-
expanded my window pane a little bit on the screen share, and it made the view of whoever's speaking smaller. And now we're back to the normal.
Gallery view. Yeah.
Right.
I had gallery view on the right and the screenshot on the left. So it just depends on how you have it
Right.
configured on your Zoom.
Now on this screen, can you see my
Yes,
cursor
I
on
see
I
the
your
saw,
screen?
cursor now.
I
And then
saw,
can you
yeah,
see you guys on the side here in
yeah.
this view? Okay.
No, but I can see your cursor now.
Okay. Gotcha. I don't know. Not that it matters all that much. I was just curious. Okay. So if we're going through these, okay, we think of a situation and then we determine whether it's one of these that is kind of trying to show up in that situation. Is that what we're supposed to get out of this?
I think my thought is, okay, we take like the child or what was it, child
Well,
or
one child.
wounded child or neglected child, and then under like chakra 1, we think of incidences that have happened that
Maybe bring up one of these different
bring up one of
things.
these, and then but also look at how you dealt with it, I think, at that time, and then
Mhm.
now how you can go back and because I'm dealing with from a personal aspect from my mom and how I've gotten as I've gotten older to where now I'm able to go back and I am working on, albeit very slowly, but reestablishing and trying to reestablish a little bit of a connection with her and having been filled in on other aspects of my mom's teenage years and maybe a little bit of what she was like as a child from
Mhm.
a little bit from what I gleaned from my mom here and from my aunt, the oldest sister, and then going back and being filled in on kind of things that happened at those stages of her life when because she was 15 and a half, basically, from what I understand, when she was married, had me when she was 16, my sister 13 and a half months later, and I've told this
Oh,
before.
wow.
And then a couple years later, one of my two dead brothers, and then a couple years after that, another one of my two dead brothers. But with those, one was stillborn and one died of crib death. So between being a 15 and a half year old and up till about 20, she was still a kid herself with kids. Two of them died on her.
Right. Yeah, that probably,
So
just not just the loss, but that feeling that she probably would have had of the responsibility of that, like it was her fault and having all of that. Oh, I can't even imagine having
and then
to,
still having two very young kids that
yeah,
she could not handle and process. But
right.
then not knowing the damage that,
Yeah.
and then finding out that my mom was kind of an unruly child, herself, and
Mhm.
probably against parents' wishes, started dating somebody and then got pregnant and then told you got to marry him because
Right.
back then that's what they did.
Yeah.
Then I was told there was one time where she went after my birth father and barely missed stabbing him with scissors.
Right. Yeah. She was coming unhinged. That's
So
now
in that,
understanding why.
so all that playing in, and then her isolating herself in a room for days on end, and then having me and my sister, and then having a stepdad who was probably not the most balanced himself and had, you
Right.
know, so going back, I've, but now coming back from an adult point of view and growing up myself, I'm able to, I've been able to not replace necessarily all the hurt and pain I've got, but I'm able to, I don't want to say justify, but I can better understand
Look
where,
at it more objectively.
yeah,
Okay.
and from a different perspective and kind of putting myself in her shoes, even though I can't really put myself in her shoes, but still be able to kind of insert and say, wow, she, there was a lot there that she was not rightfully equipped for and didn't have. And her parents probably weren't rightly equipped and doing the best they could. And then, of course, her sisters doing the best they could. But also at the same point, this is my mom being my mom kind of mentality, how we kind of do with our siblings if we have them. So, in that, that's what I think she is trying to dive into here by looking at these things, picking out, and for everybody, I think it's going to be a little differently, and it's going to be a little bit of a mixture with each one of whether it's wounded child, neglected, or saboteur. I think there's going to be a little bit of a mixture mixed in on all of it too. So it's sometimes a little harder to go in and pinpoint one exact aspect within it, if that helps to make sense.
It's awesome that you've learned how to function normally and deal with what you've experienced and not lash out at everybody with the ugliness and the sorrow.
Actually, I do still act out at times. I just,
Hell yeah.
but I have learned and have gotten to the point where, well, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to the point where I warn people. I say, if you keep pushing me, or if you keep, doing this or doing that, or you're not gonna like how I respond. I have, grown up knowing that I have my own aspects within me, and I lash out, kind of like my mom did when she would come out and have her episodes and stuff.
Well, I,
So very grateful that you and your sister were able to recognize this and had a way to get yourselves out of it.
Well, that, and then when my aunt and uncle got custody of me and my sister, and we moved down here, that gave a very more stable life and things, and a mom who was more more of the type of mom I needed, and what God provided in that, and gave me the wherewithal to maybe better work and understand a lot of this. But it has been by no easy means, and it still affects me to this day. I mean, it stays with you, I think, your whole life. You just learn how to find, when you better understand it, find ways to hopefully better.
how to respond maybe to situations and how to maybe forgive your mom and yourself for
Yeah,
for how you react to things. And I love the fact that you've learned how to create boundaries by letting people know, hey, I have some things in my past, and if you what you're doing is kind of prodding me to react and maybe react badly, so please stop doing what you're doing, or you're allowing them to know something about yourself, but
I
cautioning them.
I don't really tell them what's been going on. Anybody that knows me knows I'm kind of open book, and I don't mind sharing, because I think the more people understand about trauma like that and things you
Yes.
go through that affect you. But I don't push it on anybody. I don't, open that up unless there's a sense or people, confide in me, or
I
but
agree.
when I'm in situations where I feel people are pushing me, I start to push back, and then sometimes I've told people, I say, look, if you keep pushing me, at that point you're not gonna like the type of responses, and I'm not gonna care. It will almost be like if I'm backed into a corner and I feel I can't get out, I will defend myself no matter what way, and will not care the damage or the harm or whatever happens to you, because I have now warned you and told you that back off, let me go sort this out myself, let me go figure it out, give myself time to think through, so that way when I come back, we can better discuss. But if you keep pushing at me, I at that point, I've warned you. I will not be responsible for how I respond at that time. It will be on you.
Yeah, it sounds, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD because of my family. So it really it sort of sounds the same for you, Dan, because you've gone through a lot of different experiences where you had to really, you were traumatized. Again, your mom, and then even, yeah, you got into a better situation, but that's still difficult to adjust, you know, and I hear you. I totally hear you.
I was
But
just going back to look at because of what you're describing, you've got the wounded child in that situation and the victim, and then you were talking about your response of, you're not going to like it if you keep on pushing me, right? Which is like a survival instinct. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, let's look at the victim archetype, because I'm guessing that, you've got the victim, the side of it that plays one role that is all scared in the corner, but then you've got the defender of aspect from the other side, who's talking about the different aspects, like the positive or negative part of the archetypal um, personality, or whatever you want to call that. So I was like, oh, well, let's look at that. And that was one of the things as I was saying under the victim is we've got, the negative sides that is obvious, but then when properly recognized, it can be a tremendous aid in letting us know when we are in danger, of letting ourselves be victimized, or it says often through passivity or through rash or inappropriate actions. So I think that's great that you can recognize that in yourself as a huge thing, because so much of the time we go through life and these interactions with people, and then we just immediately, like our siblings in particular who push our buttons, or our parents with the push, they know that, and you think they're doing it on purpose, right? But when they're in reality, that's just them and their whatever, and you and yours, and you got to figure out, okay, what part of me is upset about this interaction that we're having right now? What does it really have to do with? Because often it's not about what's being said in the moment. It's about the feelings that are coming up from it for us from our past experiences that are showing up as that emotional side of that particular archetype. So the fact that you can recognize it, you can work on it, right? Like
Right.
with when I started noticing things like that, particularly with my husband, years ago, as he, we would get into a discussion, and you know how it's like, okay, we're having a rational discussion. And then all of a sudden, both of you, your defenses come up, and then you're just like, you start wanting to attack each other over it. And then you end up in a big fight,
The
right? But
trigger.
yeah, it's like a trigger. And, when you're young, or when you are in a relationship that it's new but it's not brand new kind of thing, you're just kind of really getting to know each other, and you can end up in these arguments over stuff that doesn't have anything to do with whatever the thing was, and you can either keep going worse and worse and worse as you go through your relationship, or if you can start to recognize what the actual underlying issue is, you can start working on it, and that's how it can be better, right? But if you can't work on it, then it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So um I I just saying, I think that's awesome, Dan, that you can see that, because that's where growth happens, is just recognizing it and then knowing you can work on it. You figure out, okay, what is it that's really got me upset right now, other than the person disagreeing with me or trying to tell me something that I don't want to hear, or whatever, whatever it is that you're going through in that moment. If you can recognize it, then it helps you just, even if it just recognizing it gives you one tiny little pause before the emotion takes over. And then the next time, maybe it's two pauses. And the next time it's maybe three pauses. And maybe and then it kind of progresses over time. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I recognize that I'm probably going to have this feeling in this situation. How do I want to respond instead? And so it's that uh, progression of inner growth is what I'm kind of getting at there.
Easier said than done sometimes. And I'll be honest, I don't always catch it. I don't always respond. And sometimes I still respond in those moments. But somehow I hold back still. And then later on, when I get time and can get time alone, because you guys probably know, my brain's constantly reviewing and going over things and looking at things constantly. And it's a wonder sometimes I sleep, because I will be dead asleep, and then I'll wake up to go to the bathroom, and the next thing I know, all of a sudden everything starts popping in my head, and my brain just, so I'm also on that. I'm on a loop like that too. I will say where a lot of the help and a lot of the realizing and understanding is over the times since we've been doing this group, and the length, because I've been here pretty much from almost the beginning, pretty much. What we've learned through the different books and the different things, and through my faith in God and Jesus Christ, that has all played into that to help. And by no means am I perfect. By no means do I have all the answer. I'm still figuring a lot out. So I don't, I accept what you're saying, but at the same time,
Hi, Audrey. Hold on one second, okay?
there's all of you have things that you have dealt with and gone through, and you deserve just as much accolades as I do. So with that, I don't want to necessarily, if you guys understand what I'm saying, you know, Samantha, you've had your things. Laura, you have your things. Jason, Kenji definitely has, a lot on his. Catherine, at times, what Catherine's gone through, I think mine pale compared to hers in some ways. So, you know, we all are strong and we all have recognized and are learning and growing in that sense. So, but thank you for what you guys have said.
For sure, Dan. We love you, and we just are just so happy that you're here with us. As you know, if it's not every Saturday, you're still with us. Every Saturday we're all together one way or another. We're thinking about each of us, and I'm just so grateful to have you guys, and this everything that we've done over the years is, I mean, that's the only reason that I've had the inner growth that I have had is having these conversation with you guys, and being able to put one and one together as far as the books go, but also getting 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and on from your perspectives and your experiences. So I'm just so thankful of that. So
Well, it's funny. I was a little skeptic of this book. Me, I'm the one that's usually the most skeptical on some of these books, but there are certain ones that have really, and I'm seeing some of the aspects of this book that I think we've all employed and used and found out in other ways, not realizing that, coming to this book is like, oh, I've learned some of these things. I've figured some of these things out. Oh, now she's given us some words or aspects to identify them and to better bring cohesiveness. But sorry, I didn't mean to take over this morning, but it was as we were going in more, I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. I kind of, because in a weird, in a roundabout way. Go ahead, Lori. Sorry.
No, I stepped on you. Sorry. I was just saying the whole idea of archetypes and the 4 basic survival ones that we all have really helped me recognize a couple things, like the prostitute, and everybody thinks of just the girls walking the street, whatever, but how much we give ourselves away, what we will give for whatever it is we're working toward or wanting. And it's an eye-opener, I think.
or things we're trying to avoid, what we're willing to do in order to avoid something.
Right. And that your resistance to this book might have been part of that I don't want to go there. I don't want to face that. I don't, that could be a sign saying, oh man, I really should look in this.
But you bring up good points, but like I said, I admit I go back to Catherine a lot because I see a lot of strength in her and a lot of powerful energy in her, and how she forges on and pushes on and doesn't take crap. And but over the years, learning ups and downs from things with her, I think she's kind of like me in a lot of ways. When when we're going through crap by how we act and respond and say things and do things, and and right now and I think that's what I do is I tend to pull back and want to just kind of assess and look and go, okay. And I think that's what we all do. I think we all kind of do that, you know, but we have our own way of how we do it, you know. Um, I think Jason goes in and does a little more meditating or, going more inward. Kenji, I think he focuses on his dog. Samantha, I think you you have various ways, I think. And Lori, I think you kind of
That's a nice way of saying you're all over the place.
well, no, I think we all are too. But I think we all have our some are easier to spot and others aren't. And over the years, I think we've all probably learned that about each other, how we, you know, can tell. Because like when I came on, you kind of asked me, and you even picked up on like, no, he doesn't really want to talk about anything right now. So, and you backed off. But out of all this, I think she's really helping draw out and bring things in a non-confrontational way for us to look at aspects and then find ways of how, and I think Catherine already knows a lot of this, to go in and look, but still try to stay detached until we come up with a solution or how we might want to move forward. And that's just my thoughts.
I was just allowing everybody to take that in. Or not allowing, just before I jump out and start saying anything else. I was also thinking about the other side of it of when you can recognize it in yourself happening, you can also start to recognize when it's happening in another person and not take their response as personally. And again, making, baby steps in that direction too, because I mean, we know that all these different things play a role in our own personalities. So we've got to recognize that it happens with other people too. And more often than not, what we are experiencing from other people is stuff that's either A, coming up inside of us, or B, coming up inside of them, and we're reacting to that. And when we start to recognize that, the other person has the same internal baloney that I have, and just in a different way. And it's not me that is the problem. It's that they've got to work through this thing on their side, and I need to work on this thing on my side so that we don't have this confrontation going forward, or we can change the dynamic of our emotional interaction. So it's powerful to just think about all these different things, particularly for somebody that for a long time, like your siblings. You've been around them your whole entire lives, and you went through a lot of stuff together. And yet you're different, obviously, but you can recognize, okay, well, I have the child victim coming up in me, or I have the saboteur, or the prostitute, whichever thing it is. And sometimes, like the prostitute archetype comes up when I think of trying not to respond in the same way that, somebody else in my family did because of their experience. And so it's kind of like, I'm not going to be that way. And I feel like there's some aspect of that being like the prostitute our archetype of, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. And so therefore, I'm going to act in this way instead, which could end up coming up as like the self-saboteur, or it could come up as the victim, or it can come up as the other side of the victim, which is the defensive mechanism. So it's interesting to really just start to explore the different personalities that we have within ourselves, as well as the people that we're around, and see how those different aspects of ourselves interact with each other. It's kind of like being the observer, but yet being in the middle of it. It's like kind of take it, it's that little step to the side where you can just observe, okay, this is happening right now, and this is what I feel like the dynamics of this might be outside of what's actually happening in the moment, so.
And it's interesting how the birthing order of your siblings really plays into all of it.
Mm-hmm.
As being the eldest, the firstborn, how much my responsibility in that I have to be in charge, and how much my siblings still respond in the way they did when we were kids, where none of us have really grown out of it.
That's interesting because I am the oldest out of all my sister and siblings, but it's funny. Now, with my real mom and stepdad, I was the oldest, and I was the one that kind of set the tone. Interesting enough there, but I know my sister resented that heavily to this day, even though even though we don't really have much of a relationship, but it still comes through loud and clear when I hear about the things going on in her life and stuff like that. Now down here, it's funny, even though I was the oldest, my brother, my two brothers, they were twins, really my cousins, but they were twins. And Jim, my brother, was the oldest. My mom always went to him first, always, no matter what, even though I was the oldest. So then that added a whole nother hierarchy in my life. And I think I was going to ask this question because it's a weird question I'm asking, but I'm trying to get thoughts and ideas from the group. Do you think we use other archetypes, and I'm thinking more of like the prostitute one, and we throw that up to acquiesce, to even try and maybe regain some of our own power, so to speak, or in our heads to kind of like say, oh well, I really am, but will acquiesce or prostitute to make things so that way. And I think I did this with my mom. I kind of acquiesced, and because she would always go to my brother first for whatever she needed done or whatever. But somehow I feel like I prostituted and still somehow tried to keep my own hierarchy in my eyes of that I'm still the one in control. Catherine says definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because if you try and think about all the dynamics in that emotionally, what that, you being the firstborn, the oldest, the most responsible, the one that came along first.
Right.
There's all the things that come with being the firstborn child, other than, I mean, just a lot. But then if you look at your brother, and your mother's going to your brother for whatever it happens to be, then you can have that kind of feeling of neglect, like what Carolyn was talking about when she's talking to one individual person when there's a whole crowd of people and everybody else is getting that kind of neglect feeling. So you have that, but then you also have that question of, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Why didn't she come and talk to me? That kind of, what about me kind of thing.
Well, the one point I'm trying to differentiate though is because this was her firstborn son.
Mm.
I'm not my,
Oh,
when I
okay.
talk about my mom, I'm not her biological son. I'm
Oh,
her
okay.
nephew.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's what I was saying. I was definitely the oldest,
Uh-huh.
and in my mind, I was supposed to be the one in control and take care of everybody.
Right, right.
But
But this was
she,
her firstborn son. Yeah.
hmm
So then it's more of a competition between the two of you in terms of
but I,
who's, yeah.
but I tended to prostitute, I think in my mind, to acquiesce to still get what I felt the love and what I needed
Mm-hmm.
in that aspect.
Right.
If you can understand the very convoluted
Yeah,
dynamics there.
no, I can totally get that. It's kind of like um this what's a good example? Kind of like with you're trying to get more attention for yourself because you're feeling less than for whatever, however that's coming out because you're sure you're the oldest, but yet he's her firstborn. So you've got that kind of dynamic of maybe not feeling like you're as good as he is to mom. And so then you are trying to compensate for that to try and get her to like you more or love you more or give you more, whatever that is. And then and I don't know what actions you were taking in that in order to feel like that, but it makes me think of kind of like just going above and beyond in your daily whatever to try and make yourself look more, right? To the person you're trying to gain attention from. So, and I think that comes out of that, why are we feeling this? We've got all the insecurities, we've got the feelings of abandonment because of our other parent. We've got the competitive proving yourself aspect between you and your brother, and there's just so many different emotions coming up between all of that. And that even in today, when having an interaction with him, I imagine you still have those kind of feelings of even if he wasn't the one that was, mom was choosing him over you, that doesn't mean that he is say, maybe who knows? You've got those dynamics of, you still, even though it's not about mom so much anymore, it's the interactions between the two of you. You still have those feelings when interacting with each other of a kind of a competitive nature that brothers tend to have anyway, without having the added part of only being half brothers, right? Or not half brothers, but are you cousins then? Really? I can't hear you.
By blood, we're cousins.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
My birth mom and my aunt, the one I call mom here, they
Mm-hmm.
were sisters. There were three
Right.
sisters. My birth mom was the baby, the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
My mom here was the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. 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 So living in an environment where you're basically like brothers, but yet you're not, and you're looking to get what you're missing from your mom from her instead, and then you're competing with him for that attention, and somehow or another in our culture or in our world or whatever it is, we get this idea that a person can't love more than one person really good. You know what I mean? Like we're incapable of loving more than one person in a strong way. It's like everybody else is less than or whatever. Makes sense. Another thing
Yes,
that
it really
oh,
messes
Catherine,
with the pecking order.
yeah. Yeah, right. Catherine says another thing that explains your birth mom's actions. If she was the baby, she was used to being taken care of. Oh, yeah. She so many different things.
And my daughter recommended a book to me called You Didn't Get Here Alone. And
Mm,
none of us have. We all had siblings and parents and other family members, whatever. We didn't get here alone.
right. For sure. we're all connected in that way. Oh shoot, it's at the top of the hour. Okay.
Bang,
Jason,
pow.
you got something to share at the end of our discussion? Uh,
Oh wow, I could, but
all
I'm
right,
not
Catherine,
touching
have a
this
good week.
one.
We'll see you on the other side.
it's good seeing you all today. I hope you guys are, making good progress with all of these things. That's, I hope it's helping to get you moving through whatever it is you're dealing with and not just digging down into it and not moving along, that's what I hope.
I'm
Wish you all the
benefiting
best.
from it.
I don't know. I don't think you can really dig down into something without becoming better from it, unless you're being told to dig into something and you're not ready to face it. That's, you could definitely have that happen where it doesn't help you. But I think that if you're purposefully looking into yourself and examining these different things, you can't help but grow from that, especially when we're together talking about it and seeing different perspectives and thought processes on the ideas.
Not avoiding it or sweeping it under the rug so that it becomes something everybody trips over.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just I kind of see it as you can pile everything up and look at it and then not do anything with it. It's easy to do that because the harder work comes, and to me is the harder work is actually to move past it and utilize it and work with whatever it is. Because if you're always coming back to the same, you come back to the same discussion and it's the same answer, then you really haven't moved on and you haven't been able to do anything with it. So it does help, I think, to have some clarity to have a different way of looking at things and um, putting labels on stuff and things like that to kind of you know figure out what it is you're looking at, what it is you're noticing in yourself and in others and all that stuff. But that can also be kind of get you caught up in just analyzing it so much. And I mean, I find it very, like, when you're trying to get stuff done in everyday life and someone is trying to analyze you as if you're like something that they, now a specimen that they're, and you're like, no, let's just get this done. Stop being so like they're like it's like
Like I said,
you become their problem because you're the one trying to figure out like what archetype they're working from in their life, and you're like and you don't even know realize that you're the obstacle in in the way of what they're trying to accomplish. So I think there's like multiple sides to it, and um if again, like you talk about sweeping it on the rug, well, you can also pile it up in front of you and and still track it around the room and and not really get anything done with it either. So
Have a good week, Kenji.
bye, Kenji, good to see you, man. Yeah, so anyway, the
Thank you.
archetypes are interesting, but I find it even more interesting that you can go online, look at all the archetypes, and depending on how you search for it, the list just gets bigger and bigger. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's there's just so many different, I mean, the labels, there was people talking about labels being a problem. I mean, was this back in the 80s or whatever, or maybe before that, probably. And that's kind of the issue, I don't know, what I've noticed, I mean, like the prostitute, the prostitute archetype. I mean, like that you've got to give up something of yourself. And, that part of you is saying that I mean, you're saying you're giving up some of your values in order to help or to be recognized or to get something out of it. I mean, there's different definitions for it. And so I think we kind of run a risk if we're labeling ourselves, um, because like I think what Dan was mentioning, it's a lot more nuanced. Um, and so if you're working towards a positive outcome on everything, then none of these archetypes exactly fit you. And I think we all are better than any of these types of definitions. So
And then is slapping a label on something, compartmentalizing everything.
it can be, I guess. It can be, and it can be kind of stifling, I think, if if it becomes something that defines you, that you allowed to define yourself with. I mean, it's great to kind of understand that little aspect of things, but then I mean, you're kind of doing people a disservice, I think, if you're going around trying to recognize the archetype that people are showing to you, because I really kind of believe that like someone could be saying making a few points, and in every different sentence they're switching back and forth from different types of archetypes or understandings that they have, because they're trying to get their point across, not necessarily because they're embodying that type of that particular archetype, and that's like a huge part of them, but they're maybe just trying to show you that they understand and can relate to you in these multiple ways. So it's really it is fascinating, and it's like different parts of the psyche for everyone. But I just hope everyone can
Use it all for self-growth rather than analyzing everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lori. Yeah. But as always, I do love being here, and I get a lot out of it. I appreciate it. And I
Love you
appreciate
guys.
all.
Have a great week.
Yeah, you too, Lori. Stay warm, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But but just one last, because I need to get going too. I think your point's a great point, because sometimes we do kind of get all. But if we can, at the end of the day, take all the things we've gone through and all the different books and use it for our own growth and understanding, that's basically what I think we're all here and doing and trying to do, and to help and to be friends to each other and sharing that and lift each other up. And I have to admit, overall, in the long run, a lot of what we've gone through over the years has actually helped me and helped me grow and learn aspects about me that I probably would never have learned. So in that sense,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
take
you're right.
it that way, and I look at it that way, and I value the input from each and every one of you, because then I try to use it, and I may not sit here right afterwards and go over everything, but as I'm going through my day, things pop up and come up, and I re-look at it and go from there. So I think we all use what we go over for what we need to use it for, however best we find to use it. That's how I see it, and I go from there. And
Yeah, that's great.
to this day, and that's why I love you guys all so much, because I really value each and every one of what you guys say and take it to heart.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
no.
it's great discussions. I get a lot out of it from different perspectives, and that I a lot of times wouldn't have realized. And so I'm appreciative, and I get to spend time with you guys and get to know you all a little bit better, and yeah, the appreciation just grows and grows. So yeah, thank you.
I love you guys. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up for today. I know we could talk forever on all these things. But for those of you who are watching, give us a like, share this video with anybody you think will find it helpful, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.